Hello everybody, and thanks for taking time to watch this video here. My name is Ali, and I am a senior technology consultant here at Abacus Law. The reason that I have created this video is because I've seen quite a few people showing interest in our immigration specialty version as a result of the immigration policy that's set to take place here at the beginning of 2015. So with that being said, I figured it would be a good idea to cover the specifics of Abacus Law, and more specifically Abacus Law, the immigration portion of the program. When you initially log into Abacus, what you'll notice is the calendar. It looks quite a bit like an Outlook calendar does, same functionalities as well. You've got a series of reminders, things to do, and calls to make that will pop up here accordingly with some of the items that you'll be putting into your calendar. Now, mind you, the calendar does synchronize with Microsoft Outlook calendars, and it is a two-way synchronization, meaning that if you change something on the calendar here, it will make that change on your Outlook calendar, and if you make that change on your Outlook calendar, it'll make the change into your Abacus Law calendar as well. But the features, functionalities of the Abacus calendar work very similar to Outlook, where you could just drag and drop something and that'll change the dates, as well as being able to look at a weekly schedule, and then of course a monthly schedule if you need to as well. So that's the basics of the calendar portion of the program. Now, out of the box, Abacus is a very, very powerful tool, and it was designed for all areas of law. But over time, over the 32 years that we've been around, we've realized that different types of law have different requirements, and there's different types of information that you're looking to collect from your clients. So as a result, we have come up with a series of what we call practice area legal solutions, or PALs for short. And if you're interested in seeing what those are, they are on our website. I will pop them up here for you in a second. We have, quite a few different specialties, but obviously the one that we're going to focus on today is going to be immigration. But if you're wondering if we have a different area of law that we support, we probably do. And if not on here, we can always make customizations to support that specific area of law as well. So one of the beauties of having a software-based program versus something that's hosted on a website. So with that being said, let's take a look at some of the immigration specific customizations of the program. Now, initially, when you're talking to a client, what you're looking to do is, or a new client, I should say, is you're looking to gather a series of information and have some questions for that client. So one of the custom intake forms that we have here is the Abacus Immigration Intake Form. You would basically just scroll down to the intake area, go to Abacus Immigration, and then pick out the form that resonates with what you're looking for. In this case, I'm just going to pick the Abacus General Intake Form so that you can see how it works and how you would go about entering data in. Now, at first, it may look a little bit overwhelming, but the reality of it is, these are all the questions that you're going to be needing to ask your customer anyways. And the more information that you have up front, the easier tracking everything becomes. If you're utilizing information from an existing matter, you could always pull data from an existing matter record. If you are using a name that already exists in the system, you can use that name to preload that information here as well. And in some cases, you're going to have a client that may be doing an H-1B visa and then maybe doing a fiance visa as well. So you can use that same data to plug it back into Abacus instead of having to enter all that information in all over again. But with the immigration specialty version, you'll notice that the series of questions that it asks are very specific to someone who practices immigration, such as the G28 ID number, the type of visa, the day the person arrived, I-94 number, and etc., and information about employment, as well as prior residence country. And as you scroll down, you'll see the same thing with the birthplace of the children, and information about the spouse, and so on. And then from there, you kind of work your way down, populating all the information that you're collecting from this client. Instead of having to write it down on paper and then transfer it onto the computer, you could just type it in right into here directly. If you do need to save a draft and come back to it later, you're certainly able to do that. You just hit the save draft button and you come back and you revisit this a little bit later and complete it when you have the rest of the information that you may be missing. But you continue kind of scrolling your way down, entering information about the alien's father, about the alien's mother, the spouse if there is one, And that's pretty much the gist of the intake form. And once you have put in all the data that you need, you would hit the Create Records and Close button. And what that will do is it will create a matter file for your client. Now, in this case, I'm going to pull up Jose Ramirez, and this is what an immigration or specifically immigration work type visa would look like. So very a little bit different than the family one that we have, or just the generic immigration matter screen that we have. But this is very specific to a work visa because you've got not only the information about the petitioner that is filing for the visa, and you've got information about also the employer, who the company's name is, the contact information, federal ID number, and then you work your way down, and then there's the personal information that would be here for the alien himself, including his I-94 number. And now, if any of these were populated, you'd be able to click on it, and it would open related contact information for, like, let's say, the company name. So that's where the at a glance you can take a look at and see the basics of Jose Ramirez's case file. Working our way through each tab now, you've got a notes area, which I like to say basically that this is just a big yellow pad where you can just jot down notes about the client. So if you have multiple people working on this case file, you can have notes by the different individuals in your organization here so that you can just have a good way of tracking it all together. Linked names would be the individuals and the parties that are involved in this case file. You would have the applicant, the petitioner, who the person is going to be billed to. You can also add additional information about, spouse. It could be about the attorney, for example. And I'm kind of scrolling through the different types of or through the different cases that we have that have this information populated because I haven't pre-populated this information here. But it's basically the cast of characters and all the parties that are going to be involved in this case file. And working our way forward from there, there are some immigration specific tabs here that we'll talk about in a second. But events is basically a series of calendar events that you've created for your client. So once you create a new immigration file, it will automatically create at least these series of events, which is, you need your first meeting with a client, completing the intake form, opening a billing account, doing a conflict of interest check, and etc. But you are able to add and customize a series of rules that you can, or events that you can put into this system. Or you can add a series of rules and say, you know what, if I have a new H-1B visa applicant, here's the series of events that need to happen in this order and on these dates. And so when you add an H-1B visa client, at that point, all the events will be auto-populated. But that's something that you're going to have to do on your own because different attorneys have different approaches to how they want to set those deadlines up. But in this case, we have a default series of events for at least the basics just to get you going and have you start with something. We'll come back to both documents and emails. I'm going to skip exhibits and facts because it doesn't really apply here. Work and residence is a tab specific, again, for immigration. It's just basically looking at the employment history, the tax ID of the employer, the job title or the occupation, and the dates that the person was employed there, as well as the residence history. Very same thing. And so moving on to the next tab, you're going to have information about family members. So you'll have information about the father, information about the mother, information about the spouse, and then information about children. Now, in some cases, there may be a situation where you say, okay, well, Ali, can I add more children, more fields for more children? Or, are we able to extend this to add a couple additional fields that I need to add in here? And yes, you certainly can. Our professional services team can either go in and do that for you, or you're able to make those customizations on your own. To be frank, if you're doing it on your own, it's not the simplest thing in the world, but if you have some background in coding and working with software, it's certainly doable. Usually, if you just have our professional services team do the customizations that you need to, it'd be a lot more easier. And finally, working our way to the last tab, which would be the education, military, and miscellaneous experience. You'll be able to view information about the educational background, the languages that this person speaks or reads, previous military experience, and prior spouse information. So that's the basics of the matter screen for an immigration client. Now, if we wanted to take a look at a couple other things that I mentioned we're going to look at here, one of them is documents. So any series of documents that you or any of the other individuals at your firm or your institution collect from this client, you are able to quickly drag and drop and associate it to that client matter. And what that allows you to do is that everyone in the organization can see what forms have been filled out, what's pending, and it's really as easy as going in and saying, okay, all these forms belong to this client. It asks you if you want to associate everything. You say yes, and now moving forward, anytime I double click on this, it'll open a folder specific to whatever it is that I associated to that client. Or in this case, if there's a G325A, you would be able to link that here as well. You can link actual files, images, folders, documents, really anything that you need to, and would be able to view it again through this Documents tab. So it's just a way to organize everything, and then you can search through the content of the document for something specific that you're looking for as well. And then the last tab that I was going to highlight was going to be about emails. So we also have a tab specifically for emails that you would be able to associate to the client case file as well. And how that works is through a little widget that we would install in your Microsoft Outlook, not Link. Let's open up Microsoft Outlook here. What would happen is each user that has Microsoft Outlook installed along with Abacus installed on their computer, they would have access to this tab that says Abacus. And so when an incoming email comes through your email, you would be able to select that email and say you would want to link that email to Abacus. And what will happen is a little pop-up will appear asking you what the matter record or the name record that you would like to associate that email to is, and you hit save, and what would happen is you will see that email being saved here independent from Outlook, meaning that if everything got wiped off of Outlook, you would still have a copy of that data here within the Abacus application itself. And the beautiful thing about this is that all correspondence that happened with the client, regardless of who it is in the organization, it would be saved here so you never lose track of who's done what and who's communicated what with the client. So that's the gist of the emails tab. Now, moving on to the final step that I think would be the most relevant, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that you can do with Abacus, but I'm just focusing primarily on the ones that I think are the most important to immigration attorneys. But the last step and the last thing that I really want to showcase is the forms. So within Abacus, we have all of the immigration forms that you would need. They get updated within 48 hours of any changes that occur. And essentially what you're doing is you're just selecting the form that you need. Let's say you need a application for naturalization for an additional child. Well, probably not the best form to pick here. Let's say a certificate of citizenship. How's that? We'll double click on that, and what will happen is Abacus will automatically take the information that you've put on the client record, and it will migrate it over here into the document that you are looking to fill. Now, if you need to make any adjustments, you can obviously add um, additional items yourself manually. You can mark the boxes that you need. And then from there, what you would be able to do is you could save this, print this, and save a record and copy of it into the Abacus Documents tab so that you know that you've already filled out this form for that client, which makes things a lot more easier. So that's the immigration forms part, and we do have all immigration forms available. And so these get updated pretty quickly after an update is received, and we make those changes for you, and we create those merge fields for you. So all you really have to do is just double click on the type of form that you're looking to fill out, and it will pull that information from your client matter screen. So that's the forms area. And finally, the other thing I guess that I can kind of showcase is that there is a full-fledged billing and accounting portion to the program. Now, with a lot of attorneys, if you are just using a flat fee, or you're charging a flat fee, then then it may not be as applicable to you. But if you're charging hourly for some reason, then certainly you can use our legal accounting program that has been designed specifically for the legal industry. So it'll do things that a QuickBooks or a Peachtree won't be able to do. But what I say is, if it's just a very straightforward flat fee system and you're used to using QuickBooks, no need to try to fix something that's not broken either. So that's the Abacus system in a nutshell for immigration. Now, to touch up on a couple things that Abacus will not do, it will not allow you to e-file directly to USCIS. So that's one thing that it cannot do. And the other thing that we're working on, but it can't do as of right now, is receiving information in regards to any case file updates that come from the USCIS. So that's another thing that we're working on, so that when you're looking at your different employment records or immigration records, you'd be able to see what the current case status is. But right now, that is not something that currently is a functionality of Abacus. So those are the two things that I wanted to make sure that you're aware of, and that currently aren't supported by Abacus. What I want to do now is I will post my information just in case you have any questions about Abacus Immigration and how you could use it for your organization. In this case, I've actually logged into our private cloud environment. If you haven't read or heard about the Abacus private cloud, I highly recommend you doing so. That's actually my specialty area, is working with infrastructure as a service. And if you probably found this video through my website, which is the caseforthecloud.com website, where I spend a lot of time talking particularly about Abacus private cloud. So make sure you check that out. And then, and additionally, what I'm going to do is minimize my cloud screen here, and I'm going to pull up my contact info. So if you have any questions, here's my contact info here. You can always reach me by email. I pretty much answer any time of the day and I'm always by my phone, so you'll probably get a response pretty quickly. And then by phone, during regular business hours, and considering that I am in California and it is the Pacific time zone here, so I'm probably not going to be in the office at 7 o'clock Eastern, although you could be surprised and sometimes I might show up pretty early. But for the most part, best way to get a hold of me is going to be these two methods. Email is probably ideal. Feel free to ask me any questions, and I look forward to helping you guys out and getting you up and running, especially with the policy changes that are happening. Thanks, and best of luck.